ghostly mark. Cobwebs twine and shadows dance in this twilight somber trance. Candles flicker, weary wicks, ancient echoes, time's cruel tricks. Marble figures, frozen pose, amidst the silence sorrow grows. Whispering shadows, secrets keep in the depths where night meets sleep. Underneath the velvet gloom, guardians of the haunted room. Chandeliers in crystal tears reflect forgotten yesteryears, softly chanting distant cries. Through the arches sorrow sighs. Gargoyles watch with stony gaze, guardians of endless maze. Pipe organ's breath begins to rise, filling air with mournful ties. Whispering shadows, secrets keep in the depths where night meets sleep. Underneath the velvet gloom, guardians of the haunted room.
Man, OBS sure has decided it just hates me today. Hi chat, how are you? Yes, it is Shenanigans time, and I've may or may not have kidnapped a Housecar. Say hi, House.
Hello.
I've stolen that wrestling guy because it's my birthday and we're going to chill out and do some fun stuff. And yeah, Hal's offered to come and
Ha-
join us.
Happy Dig Day.
Thank you. We should hopefully get a lictor a little bit later on, depending on how totally normal stuff in his area of the world is going on. And the puppies have just arrived home. Hello, babies. Did you have a nice time at the park?
Oh, did they ever?
So we should get an Aiden too.
So, Red, the question is, are you ready to be having your birthday dinner and hear the clapping? The clapping comes for you.
Oh goodness! I just Yzma in Emperor's New Groove is my spirit animal for that sort of thing. I
Oh,
aspire, as I continue my aging process in my many laps around the sun, I aspire to just be Yzma once I hit my maximum age. Just wearing purple and generally, you know, an old vulture. It will be lovely. I have
the idea
condolences from
of
Von Falkenstein.
the idea of being, well, aspiring to be Patrick Warburton is too lofty a goal, so we'll just have to leave that be.
Well, you know what they say, man's reach must always exceed man's grasp. Nothing stops you from trying.
I do not believe that I could reach the Patrick Warburton makes me laugh just he can make me laugh saying just about anything. The guy he has inflection that is funny, and that is an unreal skill.
Yes, it absolutely is. So yes, I am in fact 1 year older, folks, and I could have gotten up this morning and rushed around and done a ton of the things that I ideally had hoped to do for this week, but I'm afraid I decided not to. I needed a nice calm morning. Big news on our end, or my end specifically, I have finished all of the things I needed to do for the big project TM that Diggs had me on. Secret project. So
Secret project.
my part in all of that is done, which is very nice. It's nice to have that off my plate. I've had a lot of fun doing it, and I'm very excited for you guys to get to see it. Hals has seen it. He has seen all
I
of the
have seen
stuff.
things
And Crow
I
currently
speak not
has.
of.
Some of the things have snuck onto your stream early.
Mm-hmm.
But
A little bit, but that was specifically allowed.
yes, it was. But Crow has all of the bits to finish up the very last thing that we need, and then it will be up to Diggs when you guys get to see everything. So with that big project off my plate, I'm hoping to have a little bit more time to work on some of the other things that I want to do, including, of course, Shoal. And I might have some time to do a load more work on Shoal in July, but not under circumstances that I would like. So Aiden and I have our house keys back. It's water break time. I will have a sip and then continue. We have our house keys back. Our house is in good condition and we are looking forward to going home. However, the moving company now needs to actually bring all of our things to the house, which will take a week or so because our stuff's still in Jacksonville, in Florida, and we're in Washington, so that's going to take a bit of time. And one of the things that we've been really excited to do since we left the area is, just as we were leaving, the city that we live in was installing its own fiber optics. So, not through Comcast, not through Verizon or any other company. This is run by the city, and they're a really good city. So we were like, we want that. When we come back, we want that. The earliest date they could install it for us is the end of July. So for the month of July, I might not have much in the way of internet. So you might not get show streams during that. So if you don't, that gives me plenty of free time to sit and just work on it and try and make things look nice and really jazz up everything that we've done. But we will have to see how things go. We don't quite have those final dates and solutions as yet. Cicero says, True Cicero, sorry, it's your birthday, do what you want. Within reason, and no, I'm not rereading Twilight. I have read Twilight. I read it to my book group. I am never doing that again. I had to stop with that book. What, every 4 sentences to rant? It was ridiculous.
I thought that on your birthday you were supposed to do stuff you enjoy.
That's when you're young. Once you get old, you start doing things that either you don't want to do, like going out to restaurants and being forced to listen to people sing happy birthday to you, or you inflict pain on others. And that was the one benefit to reading Twilight to my book club, was I was suffering, but damn it, so were they.
So what this tells me is we need to get you to read the sequels.
No! I said at the time, I am never touching the sequels. You cannot make me, literally over my dead body.
What about the gender bent reboot?
Also no, because we discussed that while we were going through the original and just how much the gender bent reboot and the from Edward's perspective made the original worse.
I don't even know a whole lot about it, but it just sounds more and more and more and more creepy.
So to give you just, one snippet that will tell you everything you need to know. 2 snippets.
Do I need to know?
I think this
You
is
do now.
important to sort of understanding how publishing houses work and why humanity's just in a sad state, but, we knew that anyway. So with the Written from Edward's Perspective book, that was something that Stephanie Meyer was initially working on right as the movie started filming. And a little bit of it got leaked, which is why she shelved it for so long. But it does explain Robert Pattinson's acting as Edward in the scene where he first gets a whiff of Bella. And that just very over-dramatic scene that was shot. Kristen Stewart and Pattinson both got to read the couple of chapters that Stephanie Meyer had written from Edward's perspective. So they had that sort of deeper understanding of the scene from both sides. And that's why that scene is so overacted. It's because that appears in the book from Edward's perspective. It's literally written how that scene plays out. And it's awful. It's just awful for somebody who was so, oh yes, I took the concept of the vampire but made it my own thing and didn't follow any rules. You sure did overplay a very basic rule. But the thing that really makes, one of the things, because there's many throughout the book, but this is an example that sort of gives you an idea of what the problem is. There's this one moment in the book from Edward's point of view where it makes the original worse by context and would have been better if it wasn't there. And it's the moment where, after he's had the first meeting with Bella in science class, Edward goes off to the administration office to try and get his schedule changed so he doesn't have to be around her anymore. And he walks into the scheduling office in the original, and you get this sort of brief thing because Bella's around, there's stuff going on, and things just don't work out the way that he wants, and he leaves. And it's a inconsequential scene. The only reason it's there is to say that, you know, Edward's trying to stay away from Bella, and then we're moving on with the plot, in inverted commas, because the plot of that book is just atrocious and barely exists. In the Edward version, when he goes into the office to talk to the administration lady, Edward has mind-reading capabilities, and he is able to tell that she is attracted to him. She is a teacher who has no reason to believe that he is any age other than, you know, sort of 16, 17. And it's just creepy as hell the way that this is described, with this sort of sexual magnetism attraction. And it just makes the whole age issues of Twilight so much worse. And there's literally no reason for that moment to be in there. It doesn't enhance the plot. It's not a necessity. There was no reason for her to need to explain that in what was a throwaway scene to make a very basic point in the original. And you just feel gross by the time you're done seeing Edward's perspective on things. And that's
Already feeling gross right now.
Yes, it's before you even get into, you know, how he is with the gang of boys that try to jump Bella when they're out in the town at one point. It's just, oh my God, Edward is just a creep. He is just a creep. Anyway.
Yeah.
Cookie has sent to us the oatmeal comic about his experience reading Twilight, and I am getting the giggles at this.
There was, if you've never seen it, Riff Tracks did watch those movies. And the whole scene where...
Oh,
like,
no.
Yes, and there's the scene where he's explaining to her that he can read minds because it was a sample on their website. That's the only bit of it I've ever intentionally seen. He's sitting there, he goes, you know, I can't read you. I can read this person, I can read this person, I can read this person, but when I look at you, it's nothing. And Mike Nelson goes, yeah, dude, that's not because she's closed off to you, okay? There's nothing to hear. They go hard in the paint hating on it. Like, normally, the Riff Track stuff I have watched has been pretty good-natured. But, I mean, they went hard in the paint on just that one scene. I'm like, if I ever wanted to try and bring myself to watching the Riff Track of this, I'd have to sit through them. It'd be like watching the Riff Track with Phantom Menace. I don't think I could do it.
Yeah, Twilight is a uniquely special kind of horrible. And anything that is touched by it is just tainted by its stink. It's sad. It's very sad.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you, Heckmanistan, for getting me off on a Twilight rant on my birthday. How could you? Desert Owl,
Yeah.
ostensibly there's a plot. I mean, it's just a series of very boring things that happen in a sequence, but, the publishing houses decided it was worth putting to paper, so, I guess we're there.
I mean, the plot basically was how to get lonely middle-aged and teenage women to moisten themselves at the thought of Slab Beef Chest, the Sparkle Fairy,
But there's
that just
so
drools over
many
them.
better books that do that.
Oh, agreed, agreed.
Yes, Verith Ragnar is in my book club group, which once we're back in our... Yeah, I know, I'm sorry, I forgot to put my mic up on Falconscene. I will try not to do that again. Once we're back in our actual house, Verith Ragnar, I am looking to restart book club once we're all settled and have everything, because we need to punish ourselves some more. But Verith Ragnar is in my book club group, who was there when I read Twilight and got to hear me do my Edward voice as time went on, and I steadily went more and more insane. And the only way we got through the book was by rewriting our own version of how Twilight should go. And we basically turned it into a buddy cop romance where the dad, Bella's dad, and the werewolf, Jacob's dad, the werewolf dude, used to be a cop and his canine partner, and they were in this sad love triangle with the head Cullen vampire, whatever his name is. It's gone out of my head. And it was way more entertaining, and everything bad kept happening because their two idiot kids wouldn't stay away from each other, and they were just trying to fix everything. And it was a gay buddy cop romance, and it was way more fun.
The buddy cop romance between the cop, the local doctor, and the police dog,
Yes.
which is a statement to be making.
We had a lot of fun with that. It was a really good time. And yeah, somehow managed to get us all the way to the end of the book. We are not going to talk about the werewolf guy imprinting on the daughter and how awful the CG baby was in the movie version of that. Just, oh god, no. But True Cicero, yes, the main character is in fact an underage girl being seduced by a guy that's, I think he's 119 or something and should know better. And if you boil Twilight down to its ultimate point, the message that the story is trying to deliver, it's trying to deliver the important message that your destiny is decided before you're born, and sometimes fate hates you so much that the only person you're fated to be with won't be born until over 100 years after you die, so you're going to have to die and become a cursed member of the undead to ever have a chance at anything approaching happiness. Which, not the best message, in my opinion.
Yeah, see, A, correct Desert Owl, police dog, werewolf. Um, B, that's not the message I took away as the core message. See, A, I'm with you, Cookie, and your kid about still a better love story than Twilight, because this is honestly a story about one young girl's choice between necrophilia and bestiality. That's really what it boils down to, and that's fucking weird in a not great way.
Says something an awful lot about the Mormon author, doesn't it?
It does, and I've ranted about Twilight a lot, and I've spoken on.
Let's
Yeah,
let's
no,
not beat the dead horse.
I am
Are
going
you
to get
sure
to
we
this
could-
one point before we move on, though. I've ranted about Twilight a lot on this stream and to various people and other things, but I do have some positive things to say about its author, because she does do something that a lot of authors in particularly the romance genre and the consequences of Twilight don't do. But Stephanie Meyer, when she wrote her books, didn't expect the success that she got. And one of the things that she's always said in the wake of that success, for all I believe she is a hack who needs to go to writing classes, for all I believe she needs to let the setting die and stop just making cheap bucks off of it with remakes of the same story over and over again, one thing that she has said that I think is really important is that she has gone on record as saying, if anyone finds value in my writing, I'm glad. I'm also fine with people criticizing it. I know my writing isn't for everyone. I'm just happy to have ever reached anyone. And that is a really good and human way to be. There's a lot of people out there who can't take criticism of their work and believe that, nobody should ever be allowed to criticize things. She
That's a
isn't that.
pretty healthy opinion to have.
It is. It is. And I do respect her for that. She knows she has critics and she doesn't try to tell the critics they're not allowed to. Which, in the modern day, with the way people treat things, I do think that's worthy of some praise. But her writing is atrocious and I absolutely hate it.
Mm-hmm. You're not going to get any argument out of me. I don't want...
I suppose having money helps. Yes, Ed, it certainly does. But oh, so I'm sorry, Stormsong. I didn't mean to be specifically beating you as the dead horse.
Yes, but if we keep going, we might get glue, so...
Let's not turn Stormsong into glue, because it would be that, glitter glue kind that just gets stuck on everything and you're finding it months later.
I mean,
wait.
this is true, but it would still be more useful than his opinions about bacon.
Wait, hang on a second. We could get Jell-O out of this.
Ooh.
All right, so plan for this week. You guys have already seen, because I had it set up on OBS and forgot to hide it, and I just left it there. We have a poster for Moonraker, so we're going to be talking about 007 a little bit later on, and doing some voting so that we can crack the whip on Lichter if he's willing, and see if he'll make some billboard posters for us. This one's obviously AI. Lichter had the AI churn this out just for funsies. It's ridiculous. I love the fact that the AI went, yeah, Shoal, underwater setting. Let's put somebody in a tuxedo and give them a gun. That definitely makes sense underwater.
With a silencer.
Yes. So,
because, yeah, if you're going to be underwater, it's not like you need even more velocity or anything.
So, here's the thing. That's the joke's on you, Hells. That's not a silencer. That's actually a very concealable spear gun, and that's just the length it needs to actually contain the harpoon.
I also love the fact that the AI took the descriptions, of our concepts for mecha and our races, and it went, how do I make a sexy laticle? And it tried, bless it. It tried.
Hey, I know some people who would probably be into it, so...
So yeah, this is what AI thinks of 007 at the current time. We do have a write-up of Moonraker from Lichter, so that will be in our stuff to vote on a little bit later on. But I did want to start the first half of the stream, not with a Twilight rant, though we did that anyway. But I just kind of wanted to go back to where this all started and reminisce a bit about communal storytelling and... just the things that I enjoy on my birthday, because writing is my first love. And I hijacked Howls and dragged him in here because Howls has been involved in one of the more unique kinds of communal storytelling, which is, of course, in the ring with wrestling.
Wrestle.
You're still looking at story arcs, you're looking at how you deliver the message that you want to, you're looking at pacing. There's a lot that goes on, and I really only learnt about all of this in the detail that it's in since Hal's introduced me to wrestling. And it's communal. You need the cooperation of the other people that you're working with. If you're working for a company, you obviously have to have them on board, which is like working with the production crew. So I kind of hijacked him in the hope he'd talk to us a bit about that today, if that's okay with you.
And to add another wrinkle to it, even though they don't outright say it, the crowd plays a huge role too. So
Yes.
It's communal the whole way around.
You have to respect your audience, just like with any
Yes.
art form. So yeah, that's kind of why I hijacked the Howls today.
It's one of those things where you cannot have, like, you can't make it obvious, because if you make it obvious, they are going to exploit it. But the crowd will dictate stuff that happens in the ring. So, for example, there is there's this trope in indie wrestling about the old never was vet in the locker room that would say, back in the day, you'd go out there and work the arm and people would be coming out of their chairs for it. And it's like, oh, really? Well, I've gone back and watched stuff from the 70s and early 80s. And you know what? Unless you're Dusty Rhodes, you know what happens to people that go out there and do that? The crowd starts chanting boring at them. And they don't have the patience waiting like crowds today do. Crowds today will go, are more likely to go, oh, let's see where it's going. But as it turns out, back then, if you're doing something boring, they told you about it.
I think part
And
of
so,
that is, it works with many art forms, is that you have that evolution of the medium. When you look at older written works and the pacing and the language that's used in them, it can be very hard to have them hold the attention of, say young people currently going through the education system are going to really struggle with Shakespeare. Shakespeare now has this concept of, it's very high art for you to have to read it and understand it and process it, because it's not written in the language that we use commonly today. Well, wrestling, I imagine, has also gone through a thing of when it started, it was this new thing and people didn't have a set of expectations set. Well, that's evolved now to the point where you know that you're going to be told a story and you sometimes need a bit of patience to see where a thing is going. So modern
so
audiences have that
yeah.
patience, whereas initial audiences, you had to give them a reason to want to give you the patience in the first place because they didn't have that expectation set yet.
Well, see, here's the problem. The 70s and 80s were not early.
Oh, that's
Um,
fair. That's fair.
there's footage of the Groucho Marx's talk show where he is giving wrestling people that come on his show a hard time about it not being real. Like this is not anything new.
Hmm.
It's just there used to be a little bit more of a let's pretend kind of thing to it. And then
Right.
uh one major company decided to make a reality show out of having people train for it and put that on, I think it was TNN at the time.
Hmm.
Um, and so there's plenty of stuff that's, the genie is well and truly out of the bottle. And I think part of that might have influenced part of the fan base. Of course, that's 20 years ago to say, okay, we know how some of this works. Like, if I'm watching it, I know full well how it works. The problem is I don't watch like everybody else does. I'm sitting there watching it, appreciating it, trying to think through what they're doing, watching their execution, all that sort of good stuff. But if they can get me invested, then they've done a great job getting me invested, getting me out of the analytical mindset.
Yes, that's
People
people
who,
who are really doing their job well at that point. Because if you know the
yes,
secrets behind the curtain, it becomes that much harder to sort of blank the curtain out and make people stop looking.
I've actually
well,
got a good example of that from recent memory. So,
okay,
Storm Song reached out and told me he had watched the first episode of this, but there's an anime that I'm a fan of called Shiki. Uh, it is, for those who are unaware of it, Shiki can best be described as an anime attempt at writing a love letter to Salem's Lot. The whole thing is it's a slow burn set up in a isolated Japanese village in the mountains where vampires move in and start doing what they gonna do, which is trying to take over the town and turn it into a vampire village. And it's a nice slow burn that leads into, oh god, it all going down. But the thing about it is, one of the main protagonists that you're introduced to right at the very start of the show is the village doctor. The guy who wrote the original story of Shiki, he was a fan of medical dramas and things of that nature. So there'll just be sections where they just start going into medical technobabble. Introspective scene this show. Priest can eat shit. Fucking agree. Anyway, um the the sequences where the doctor and his staff are trying to figure out what the hell's killing off the villagers. They're thinking it's an epidemic, this, that, the other. They start talking about the symptoms that they're seeing and what is going on behind the scenes, what they think might be the cause. And they're eliminating different potential health issues that they originally thought it might have been. And they're just slinging technobabble the whole way through. Well, a buddy of mine works in the medical field, and he sat down and watched the whole show with me. And one of the things that he struggled with was those sections because he, like you were describing, House, because he knows what goes on behind the curtain, medical dramas are completely ruined for him. He cannot stand them because he's used to the real thing. So it took a particularly interesting premise from the entire rest of the show to make him able to, zero back in on the I believe button and have the suspension of disbelief maintained long enough to enjoy the payoff. Because when, like I said, when it starts going, it starts going.
Kind of like Dr. Mike on YouTube watching The Pit.
Yep.
Like, that's. But my favorite example, analog anyway, everybody knows magic's not a thing. But you watch a magic show and you appreciate it. I know full well magic's not a thing. My hands are too big and too stupid to do magic stuff. But I enjoy watching it because I actually enjoy watching the execution and getting a kick out of it. And I go, I know full well how vanishes are supposed to work. I can't do them, but I can appreciate it being done well. This is the same kind of thing for me. I'm enjoying watching this, and it's a good time, and it's a similar kind of thing. The difference is that with a wrestling show, you are having to get them to buy in to your premise all the time, because if you screw your premise up, you're going to lose them for everybody else. There's usually, you don't have multiple magicians on one show. And so if you have a magician screw up, he can kind of stooge it and be like, oh, well, and act like that, that big mistake plays in everything else. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Burt Wonderstone or whatever. But
Burt Wonderstone, there's a name.
Isn't it? But
That
if you
sounds like
have
the magician equivalent of the muscle meathead names from Mystery Science Theater.
But if you have a wrestling show where the guys in the ring, just stink it up, then you don't have a lot of choices. You're going to have a long way to go to get the crowd back. And the other thing that a particular company suffers with is that the stuff you do outside the ring has to transfer inside the ring. You know what? I'm even going to pick on somebody in particular. All right. And you have to pardon me. I don't even like this company, but I'm aware of this because of how bad the dichotomy was. Jey Uso is in WWE, and he has basically built his entire gimmick around saying the word yeet. I don't know, don't ask, but
I mean,
his
it already
entrance
makes me
has
want to punch him, so he must be doing something
the,
right.
his whole entrance. He's got the crowd bopping up and down, and they're shouting yeet, and they're jumping up and down with the way he's holding his arms and stuff. And okay, you know what? There are dumber things that have gotten over. Yeah, WCW had a licensed Kiss wrestler at one point, right?
Oh, yes, one of my friends has mentioned about this.
Yes,
Oh,
yes.
boy.
And so Jey Uso goes out there, and the crowd's really into it because it's a fun entrance. Okay, fine. To the point where there are several people that just, and I'm not just saying like message boards, there are people who have long-running respected podcasts on the topic that just refer to Jey Uso as Yeet Man, because that's all he is. He's had I think the last 2 or 3 years at WrestleMania, he has, stank the ring up. Last year,
Oof.
it was because he and his twin brother, so it's Jimmy and Jey Uso, were a tag team doing all that, and they were pretty good. The problem was that if you saw one of their matches, you saw all of them, and they really only had. They would do super kicks and they would do big splashes off the top, and that was basically it. Jimmy and Jay had a grudge match at WrestleMania, not this year, but last year. It was 20 minutes. 20 minutes. That was awful. That's just like the whole storyline people were hyped for this. Oh man, they worked together so long. They've been building this up. This is going to be great. This is going to be, and they go out there and they just mess the bed entirely.
Hate
And
to hear that, man.
yeah, well, it was not a surprise for
Fair.
folks who weren't dyed-in-the-wool fans. We saw this coming. You know, people, Usos are the greatest tag team ever. It's like, you need to broaden your horizons. God. And so this past year, well, he was over enough that they're like, okay, let's go with it. And they had Yeet Man win the Royal Rumble, and he went to challenge Gunter, formerly known as Walter, who, by the way, is awesome. Even if he works for that company and not a big fan of it, I will tell you, I watched him before he was there. He hasn't changed much. That was Thunder right outside the window behind me.
Nice.
Gunter, aka Walter, is awesome.
See, when you say Gunther, I don't think of wrestling. I think of a particular song.
Well, I
no.
understand that, but the problem with when you go to that company, they either want you to license your name to them for them to use for a certain period of time, or you come up with a new one that they use. They say,
Yeah.
give us a list of 10 names and we'll pick one from it, and they keep picking the worst ones. So they picked
Naturally.
Gunter.
My ding ding dong.
Yeah. So, but Gunter, aka Walter, I'm just going to call him Walter because I knew him first as Walter, consistently had fantastic matches with people. Like, he's excellent. Goes out there, and the match with Yeet Man stinks. And it's so bad, he's so bad in the ring that he held that secondary, not really, but we're calling it world title for 2 months. He had a grand total of, he won it, he had 2 defenses and lost it. And the 2 defenses, one of them wasn't even a full match. It was a storyline thing where there was a DQ to cut it off. Like, you have to have your in-ring match your out-of-ring, or you lose people, is the point that I'm driving at. The here, this is one I hit Red Knighton with. You take the out-of-ring storytelling of Hangman Adam Page and Swerve Strickland, and Hangman's revenge story arc, and Hangman has lost his mind and gone crazy, and has the lights out non-sanctioned cage match with Swerve that's all about Hangman getting revenge. And lights out means that it's not sanctioned by the company. That's the gimmick. We shut the lights out, the show is over. Okay, this match is happening after then. We're not responsible for it. That's the idea. And the intensity of that match reflects the build to it. The build to it was that Swerve broke into Hangman's house and left a Swerve shirt in Hangman's infant son's crib while his son was sleeping there as a threat, right? And then Hangman lost his mind. Swerve got over as a face. Hangman went heel with the idea of, how could you cheer for someone that did this? And then they ran this angle where Swerve, after signing his new contract, got a big bonus, and he went and bought the childhood home that his family had lost when he was a kid. And, he was able to go buy it back. And the Dynamite before this big, the big match where they had this unsanctioned cage match, Hangman Page, who, by the way, has a degree in video production. He was a high school English teacher, shot and produced the promo where he walks through this Swerve's childhood house and then burned it down and sat in the front lawn in an easy chair he brought and sipped whiskey while it burned behind him.
It was
That much
so good.
That much build, it better match what's in the ring, better match that intensity, right?
Oh, and didn't it just?
It did. It did. And part of it is you've got to have crowd buy-in. You have to be able to do enough build, and then once you have the build, you have to be able to pay that build off. That's people can talk a big game, but if they can't follow it up, then, you have a huge problem, and people don't want to watch your stuff anymore because they think that Lex Luger has had various points in his career, where he basically whoever was making the decisions gave up on him. Lex was always there. Lex was always up for it. And then they pulled the rug out from under him, and it created this idea that Lex Luger is a choke artist. Never mind the fact that he was always there for it. Never mind the fact that he was always up for doing whatever, and he was there for it. But, it built this idea. So one of the big things is you got to make sure that the people you have that want to do all this stuff are competent enough to be able to do the in-ring follow-up. And that can be dicey. I'm sorry, I don't remember where the question started from. I think I meandered
Kind of
off of it.
meandered.
This show is called Writing Rants, so you just kind of go off, and that's fine. We're allowed to do
Then
that.
pull me back somewhere
we don't
so I can be
necessarily
pertinent.
need to always come back to where we started from, but
Yeah.
I'm really glad you brought up the Swerve and Hangman sort of arc there, because it's really representative of just plain good writing that would work in any medium. It's obviously made exciting and interesting because of the medium that it's for, and it was specifically sculpted for that, because respecting your audience and using the tools that you have in the medium you're in will make for a better product. But what you had with that was an excellent use of environments, with Swerve in Hangman's home, Hangman burning down Swerve's home. You've used these interesting external environments and then brought everything together in the ring as your sort of third communal environment to allow that external tension to come to its climax. So you've got really good environmental use. You've got really good character arcs, as you described them, in Hangman particularly, with everything that he's had going on with him to get to that point. And the use of which door he entered in and left through as well, for people who are versed in wrestling stuff to understand that the choice that he made for how he left the ring was also another storytelling beat, was very clever and very cool, and excellent use of, again, environment and the medium that they're working in. But as you say, you also had that tension build up, and then what happened in the ring in front of the audience to allow for that climax and that satisfaction was excellently done. And that's the thing I'd like to come back to with you in just a minute. But what I also really liked was they knew that this needed to be a big climax match, that this was a heated moment that needed to be very satisfying for the audience. And the choice to use some of the elements that they did in the ring, in particular at the end with the syringe, knowing that that would get a visceral reaction from the people watching, because you're using shape language and something people in themselves intimately know. Most people have had an injection in their life. Most people aren't exactly fans of needles, tattoo enthusiasts notwithstanding. It was something that was going to be very visceral and very easy to react to, and help build and shape that moment. So I thought that was particularly well done and impressive.
There's one other wrinkle
Go for it.
to that whole thing.
Go for it.
The wrinkle is that up to that point, Hangman has not beaten Swerve in a straight-up match. Yes, early on, Swerve was the heel. He cheated for them. A lights-out, non-sanctioned match, quote, doesn't count on your record. So Hangman won. Hangman destroyed Swerve to end that, but on the record, still hasn't beaten him.
Yes. Which and
So-
there's your cliffhanger for everything that comes next. Which again,
Yes.
that's excellent character arcs, story arcs, investment, respect for your audience. And the thing that I'd really love to sort of have a discussion with you about, in terms of what we do on this stream and the nonsense I get up to,
Yep.
is what would have had to have gone into that for that to work so well. Because I imagine Hangman and Swerve behind the scenes, the discussion of the communal coming together to build this, and with whatever members of the production team that they needed to be involved with to make everything happen. But when you're coming up with this sort of thing, or if you were involved in something on this scale, what does that look like in the wrestling world for organizing this sort of thing, so that you get that consistent communal flow to satisfaction?
Before we get into that,
Yes.
on the subject of production team members, I just want to point out we now have a spy in our midst.
We do. Hello, Ducks.
Hey, Ducky lad.
I quietly came in because I wanted to deliver a statement to Lady Red personally before I have to go back to work.
And what's that?
Lady Red, you are pretty awesome. It's inspiring to see what you have, how you have grown and what all you've embraced, and what you put up with. I've met Aiden, and you're a pretty good duck in my book,
He
and I
ain't
don't just
wrong.
and I don't give that away, but I declare you to be a good duck.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It's not often you get something genuine and straightforward and heartfelt from me. Usually, it's under a veil of sarcasm, witticisms, and self-deprecation, as is my custom. But I want to just deliver to you my, gratitude that I get to be, hang around and you help with our crazy and dumb, and I appreciate that.
I appreciate you too. I think the only thing I can say in thank you is quack.
Quack. Ladies and gentlemen of chat, I've come. I've delivered one heartfelt message. Now we must chaos. Everyone, please quack at Lady Red for her hatching day. Everyone, all of them.
Quack.
Oh no. I'd
There
unfortunately
we
had
go.
to step away with a phone call, so I'm spared from him quacking at me.
Quack.
It's okay. We'll.
Quack!
Never mind.
There we go. So, to
Bonk?
try and answer the question,
Yes.
it's kind of unfair to compare the Hangman and Swerve thing because that stuff was also planned out. Hangman was gone for a few months, and when he came back, new music, all that sort of stuff. His music and entrance video foreshadowed everything up to him
Yes.
burning down Swerve's childhood home. It was in there. It was all foreshadowed.
The production values on this entire arc were top tier.
And so the difficulty is it's not really fair to compare that because that's so high end.
Yeah, your average matches, you're not going to have that going on.
If you're wanting to do a running storyline, then at the very beginning of it, what's it going to be? Pretty basic plotting stuff. We're here. We want to end this here. We've got 4 shows between now and then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, this show, this is what we're going to do. This show, this is what we're going to do. This show, that's what we're going to do. And depending on where you work, if you were on the level I was at, then it's just the two of you talking. If you're on a bigger level, then you've probably got an agent working with you to say, okay, these are the specific things that you should have happen. And then if you want to get really complicated, you turn around and in the same company, you look at the Tony Storm, Mariah May storyline, which was basically straight up Sunset Boulevard that was orchestrated with one RJ City. And so sometimes it's, hey, this is a really good storyline. I think we could play this out, so we're going to match these beats. And what ends up happening is that people try and get too complicated because this is a live theater production.
Yes.
And not everybody's going to get everything. So if you're deciding to be too subtle or too small a detail, it's not going to work. And I made that mistake myself. So how does it happen? You sit down and you're like, someone in a position of authority says, this is what we want to have happen. This thing. We want to have this happen here. And then we're going to break it down between now and then. The difficulty is going to be what kind of direction you get and are both people playing ball. Because if you got one person who's playing ball and then the other person's like, yeah, I don't want to do this, they can sink it. They can Hulk Hogan it. That doesn't work for me, brother. Because, Hogan did that. the storyline was going to be Hulk Hogan's the new conquering hero that came into WCW, and he's going to take on the big nasty heel Vader, who's been the terror of the company for years. And Vader hits the power bomb that legitimately put a job guy named Joe Thurman in the hospital by some freak twist because he just landed wrong and it screwed his back up. Vader power bombs Hogan, and Hogan hops right back up, and it kills the whole thing.
If I might,
Yes.
there's been an interruption to the unplanned interruption.
Ruh-roh.
We have a lictor.
We do have a lictor.
My God.
Lictor
Lictor
is
in the room.
usually here, and he has in fact arrived.
Speaking
have.
of complicating things further, first we have the intrusion by a ducky lad. No.
Quack.
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 Yeah, that has to be difficult because when you're doing something, I mean, obviously it works in theatre, and I have an anecdote of my own in a minute, but treating wrestling as violent theatre in, the squared circle, you do have that whole thing of you can even do as much pre-production as you want to, and I mean, you've obviously said with Hogan where his ego got in the way, but planning had gone into that, and you're there and you're delivering the thing, and now something's gone wrong. It's not like you have the ability that you do with literature, movies, video games. So video games often chooses not to do this, to make sure that you've polished your product before anybody ever sees it. The product is happening in front of a live audience, and you have to go with whatever happens. So if there is a mistake, you have to have that ability to either recover from it, embrace it, or do something with it to keep things flowing. Which is a very different pressure than you get in other storytelling mediums, and again makes that communal nature so important. And unfortunately, in this case, is what makes Hogan not such a great person, is because he's not on board that communal train. I mean, I know
it's
there's
not
a
so
lot
much
of
that.
reasons.
It's Hogan is a wildly selfish, massively insecure, rampant racist human being.
Yes.
So, it's I don't understand somebody who's that successful. I don't understand how you can be that insecure. I don't get it. But in any event,
personality types.
but in any event, you got it. I know full well. Hangman and Swerve was built. Hangman was up here. Swerve was ascending. They built that so both of them benefited out of it, and they worked together to get there.
And the audience benefited because that whole thing was just glorious. And I'm so glad that I had cause to be around when that was happening to experience it.
Hey, July 14th,
cool.
All In, Hangman versus Moxley. What were you going to say, Lictor?
I'm going to say that when you get to the very, very, very top 0.1%, you tend to get people who are either extremely confident and chill or extremely not. It's really diametric, and it's kind of amazing how this bipolar way, because I don't know, the insecure guys just tend to be that way, and it drives them incessantly. And there's chill guys who
So
don't
funny.
need all that drive.
It's funny you bring that up, Lichter, because you just described something in a different field that I have personally experienced, which is, okay, it's not unknown by this point. Prior military service, I've met multiple Navy SEALs during my career. I was never one myself. God, nowhere near enough drive to have been able to accomplish that. But I've had the pleasure of meeting several, and they always fit into two categories: the insecure prima donna, which is kind of the oh yeah, this is going to be the guy that tries to go for the book deal when he gets out kind of vibe. And then you get the guys who are just really quiet, really chill, and they're happy to just open a beer with you, and they don't talk work ever, unless you have reason to. At which point, they're not gonna be dicks about it, but they're gonna be like, yeah, well, we'll talk about what we can talk about. Well, there's only so much we can do. But you've got that mix, like you were saying. You've got the insecure, and then you've got the extremely secure. It
Y'all
seems
know,
like it's one of the two.
Y'all know I work in the music industry, right?
Yes.
No.
Yes.
What?
I'm just not. Y'all don't even know. I think y'all can infer, but like, oh yeah, I've had to stare people down on the stage when their ego gets out of control. Like the audio engineer doesn't care about your ego, and if you see an audio engineer walking across the room holding a coffee cup, buckle up. He's about to start chewing.
Why are you putting in your coffee cup, man?
No, it's something that I used to joke about until one day I got mad. I picked up my coffee cup and I left the booth. And I
Because if
chewed
you
my way
have
from one.
something in your hand, you can't be punching people. You've got something in your hand. It keeps your hands
Yes.
busy.
Okay. I mean,
Y'all don't know Angry Ducks. Y'all know the
Yep.
Happy Mad Ducks.
I hope never to have to inspire angry ducks. But on the other
Anyway.
side of the spectrum,
You've shown snippets of it, but never directly. It's like you've shown anecdotes of Angie Ducks.
I
But I've
try to
never
keep
seen Angie Ducks.
Angry Ducks under control. Because sometimes you're very good at being angry, and this could be a problem. So you keep it under wraps. You don't let it
Yes.
get out of hand.
Yes.
And sometimes it's very difficult to do. Sometimes you're running a festival and you have 4 large name bands come through, and one of them, despite being the smallest name, has the biggest ego, and he starts yelling and verbally abusing the staff, and then you see him walking towards you. So you just take a wide stance, cross your arms in the bouncer pose, and just wait. And this one occasion, the man saw me and stopped. That wasn't going to work. So I waved him over, said, "No, you come yell at me. Come on. Come on. Get over here. You want to cuss at me too? Come on. Come on. Don't be a chicken." And he walked away.
what's good for the
There are
goose is good for the gander, and if you're not willing to deliver it to the gander, leave the geese alone.
the people with that attitude, every so often, they get put in their place. And it's usually a beautiful sight for everyone
I was gonna
around that
say
has been putting up with them.
it's magical when that happens.
I'd like to bring us
Anyway.
back
Hey.
to a really positive one that I saw this week, though. Is the other side of the spectrum, and somebody I imagine is much easier to work with. I can't remember who posted it, but somebody posted a video of John Cena out in public with one of those punching bags that measures how strong your punch is. And
Yeah.
he makes this big show of, okay, I'm going to hit it. And he goes for it. Nothing happens. You see him do the punch, but the bag don't move, nothing happens. And then he does it again, and then he just turns to the crowd and goes, "Never actually punched anyone in my, in 25 years," and just walks off, and everyone's cheering because he's selling who he is as a person. He's selling, and he's not doing it because he's trying to sell. It's just the correct thing to do. As a decent person, he's like, yeah, you know me as this character actor, but I want to make this a positive thing. And you're breaking the fourth wall, but he does it in such a positive and engaging way. He's still, even when he's not in the ring doing the John Cena thing, being who he needs to be for the audience that respects him. And I really respect that, you know?
So you know what that makes me think
wait,
of?
hang on. I've
Go on,
got
go
to
on.
add in a wrinkle to this.
Go for it.
Here's how you know you get an idea of John Cena is he has done more Make-A-Wish visits than the next 3 people on the list
He has done
combined.
so
And he
much
does
charity
not
work.
show up. He doesn't show up for cameras or anything like that. He just, "Hey, you're in this area, we got a Make-A-Wish kid, I'll be there." And he does. And then he doesn't tell anybody. He didn't tell anybody about it. He just does it. In stark contrast to the guy he's having a match with today, who I haven't been able to stand for 25 years, and it's only gotten worse. CM Punk, there was a video of him getting off the aircraft and pushing a kid away who asked for a picture. So
It's just asshole.
there,
Punk,
you've got, you've got the two, you've got your diametric opposites right there.
And I know which one I'd want to work with and tell stories with and elevate, the human race, because we tell stories to engage other people, and express what it is to be alive and be human and be here. And how are you doing that by rejecting a child who looks up to you?
Oh, yeah, he's massively insecure.
I have
So,
an equally positive example though, because there's a local
before you
Zydeco
do,
artist. Go ahead.
Ducks, before the thought vacates the premises, because it's gonna happen. My brain is holding onto it like a greased pig, and it's going squeeze,
You're
squeeze,
letting it
squeeze, and
slip
running.
right now. Get it out.
I know. The punching bag thing with John Cena. You know what that immediately made me think of? The scene in Dragon Ball Z. It was at the very start of the Buu saga where the gang all decides, "Oh, there's a world martial arts tournament, not a like end of the world one, but just a normal one. Let's all go compete." And you get everybody lines up for the punch measuring machine, and all the good guys are very brazenly pulling their punches, and it's still registering ridiculous because it's Dragon Ball frickin' Z. And then Vegeta's the asshole who just marches up and then just decks
Plonk.
the thing and completely demolishes the machine, throws it flying across the arena. And everybody's like, huh?
But of course, the great thing with Vegeta is that his whole character arc is that he's this absolute little asshole with short man syndrome, but damn if he doesn't love his wife.
Yes.
This is true.
This is terrifying.
I was just going to say there is a Zydeco artist that tours, and I've seen him do charity after charity. I've seen him do
A
everything he could.
what
And
artist?
Zydeco, Cajun
Mhm.
music.
Okay.
I'll
Send me
send you
samples.
I'll send you a link here in a bit.
Thank
But
you.
this particular guy is just one of the greatest people that I've met at all. And like I used to repair his equipment, and even though he stood no chance of remembering my name, every time he saw me, he would go. He knew I fixed his stuff, and he would walk over and shake my hand. We would be at a concert, loading in whatever. I would just encounter him out in the wild, like, "Hey, this guy's playing," and I would just swing by while they're setting up just to say hi. And he always remembers my face, always comes over, shakes my hand, always remembered I fixed this stuff for him. And while he meets too many people to remember my name, he always remembered, hey, it's the guy that fixed our broke stuff for like 25 years. And honestly, one of the best human beings I've ever met.
That is
Wonderful.
excellent.
That being said, I got to get back to work.
Yes,
So
please have a nice work afternoon.
Good
I
luck. Be
came,
safe. Don't die.
I promise nothing. I came to deliver a compliment, and then I got distracted listening to my friends talking and having meaningful conversation. And then, of course, there's me. So I hope that everyone here has a great day. Red, happy hatching day. Chat
Thank
one more
you.
time. Quack at Lady Red, because now Aiden's here, so we can make Aiden quack at her too, because we're very mature adults, and this is what we do
Quack.
for our friends. I hope. Oh, ladies and gentlemen, this has been an interruption from Mad Ducks LLC.
Thank you, Ducks. All right, bringing this back to where we started with theatre and having to adapt to things going on. When I was a younger redling and still living in the UK, one of the things I loved to do was to go to the theatre. I would every year, me and my best friend would get theatre passes where you had like 5 or 6 shows a year that you paid for and got access to, and they'd be sort of one every quarter and then a couple of extra holidays. So I'd go and see things like Chicago, Little Shop of Horrors, Rocky Horror Picture Show. But there was one particular one we went to one year where it was a Dracula stage show. It wasn't the original Dracula stage show as written by Bram Stoker for Livingston to perform in. It wasn't like the original, but it was based off of the original novel. And it was a small theatre troupe that did it, and they were performing at the local theatre closest to us. So a little small town theatre. And we paid to go and see it. And to this day, I still don't know the actual extent of what happened with this show. We turned up and the weather was atrocious, which was perfect because we were there to see Dracula on stage and the weather should be terrible. But of course, the problem with terrible weather, especially on British roads, is that this means that traffic is a nightmare and there's probably going to be an accident. And when the accident apparently includes half the theatre troupe getting in a car crash and not being able to turn up, and you end up with just 2 of the actors who happen to have the props van with them, you've got a bit of a problem. So what we were told was that there had been an accident and that they didn't have, the full troupe there, and that people who wanted a refund could, but if we all wanted to stay and watch the show, they could do it with just the two of them. They wouldn't be able to do all of the full costumes, but they would be able to do the hats and go through the entire thing. And you know what? We decided we were going to sit and watch it. To this day, I don't know whether that story was true or whether this show was always just supposed to be these two men with a selection of hats, because it was that damn good.
Amazing.
We loved it, and everybody stayed and watched it. Nobody asked for a refund afterwards or anything, and everyone was talking about how much fun it was, how good it was, how well the actors did, the voices, and I still don't know whether that story was true or not, and frankly, I don't care. I don't care if it was always supposed to be two dudes in hats. It was amazing. But if it was an issue of, the half the troupe had gotten stuck in traffic in a car crash or whatever, and these guys rolled with the punches and carried it through into a show that good, that is some damn good teamwork and understanding of the material you're delivering to be able to roll with that level of punch. Because damn if they didn't sell it to the audience.
Yeah.
It was really good.
I had a theater class once where it was the instructor made the point, said the audience does not know anything is wrong unless you tell them.
Yes.
And I was like, I've always kept that in my head. It's like, nope,
So-
we're hanging on to that.
That is applicable in theater. That is applicable in. That's something I've found is very applicable in tabletop gaming as far as GMing a game. If you don't demonstrate that whatever just happened is shit going off the rails or wrong, then most of the time your players are going to think that everything is continuing to truck along, which is where learning improv is a really, really useful skill, because as long as you can make it seem like everything is still proceeding in accordance with how the game should proceed, then yeah, it clearly is.
Yep. So, okay. I'm not sure what to do with it now.
No,
Have fun.
You're good. We've gone through our first hour just ranting about stuff as we usually do. I think while we sort of, we have you here, and obviously you're very welcome to stay with us till the end. If you had your sort of ideal circumstances and you were able to go back in the ring and you had the ability to do a storyline at any level that you wanted to do, what sort of thing would you love to be able to pull off, and how many people would you want to get involved? What would be sort of your ideal for storytelling in the ring if it was left in your hands?
Gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh, good Lord. My problem is I don't know if I was actually be good enough to do some of the
Considering how invested I know you are in storytelling and writing, I think you'd do amazing things. Castlevania by way of WWE, that'd be interesting.
I am thinking of I'm thinking of the thing
Simon
from
Belmont would be
earlier.
a fucking amazing wrestler. Holy crap.
Yes.
I'm thinking
my
of
God.
what I said earlier about being able to hold up the in-ring portion. Because, I've done theater stuff. I've done that, and I like to think I was pretty good with what I was given to do. But, if I'm going to chart this out, gosh. There's going to be a section where I get mentored by Sting. There's going to be a section of...
Absolutely.
Probably a section where I work with Mark Briscoe. And I mean, ultimately, of course, everybody could say, "Oh, you just want to go and work in the main event or something." I'm like, I don't know that I would, because that adds a whole level of restriction to it. Because if the top title is involved, then there's all kinds of stuff that comes into play. And the beast of it is that since wrestling is a series of storylines that unless the company goes under, don't really end. They just stay connected and keep going and keep
You
going and
do
keep
end in
going and
that
keep going.
serial show
Yes.
issue, which can be a problem because, of course, not having the ability of one of the things I've always said is one of the greatest things you have in storytelling. Two of the most powerful words in any kind of story is the end. When you're not allowed to
Can be.
use those, it can make things really, really difficult.
So
the go on.
it's that you can have the end for a particular person.
Yes,
And
or
That's
for a
yep.
particular arc, and then you split things up for long enough.
well, you go watch the Hollywood ending Mariah May versus Tony Storm, and what happened at the conclusion of that match, they were on the ramp. They were in front of the Tron screen. And what did that screen say at the end when Tony pinned Mariah? The end. And that was it. Done.
Those two
Um,
words can be so
that's-
powerful.
That was something I was going to make the observation of, and this is honestly something I feel that, at least from my limited level of exposure, wrestling does better than comic books, hands down. Is like you yourself just said, you don't it while the narrative is ongoing and perpetuated unless the company goes under, the individual characters are rotated out. I'm thinking to the handful of different characters that I've seen or read about who were retired out of the ring, whether for a given production or entirely. Brian Danielson being the first one that comes to mind, but he's not the only one that I've been reading up on. And that's something where I actually applauded the MCU when they went with Endgame for doing this. Is it makes perfect sense for the story to continue in the MCU to a degree. I honestly think they should have stopped after Endgame, but if they were to continue going, Captain America is retired, Tony Stark is dead, Black Widow's dead, um, Thor is fucked off on space adventures with the Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, you've rotated characters out, which allows new characters to come in and become new focal points, which gives you, even if a lot of the story beats are similar, gives you the chance to have fresh elements added in. And that's a big problem I have with comic books and superhero shit in general, is that what always seems to happen is, okay, well, we've written the story and, well, we
You
just
still
wrote
like money.
ourselves into, yeah, we wrote ourselves into a corner, and we still like having Captain America or this, that, or the other. Well, I guess we're just going to sidestep to a alternate universe where Captain America is still around, or we're going to reboot the setting again, and
Yeah.
it's the same characters over and over and over and over and over again, and it gets stale as fuck because
Well,
unless something changes, whether it's the characters or the stakes, or the status quo has to change, or else you're just rehashing the same shit over and over again, and it gets boring. It's why Call of Duty is so goddamn dull these days, is because, my dude, even though it's different characters, it's the same fucking story every goddamn time. Please stop.
It,
Holy shit.
in the thing that I would say that in comics that you can do, because what draws people to comics is the characters they know and love. Okay. The problem that happens in comics is you get a new writer who comes in and wants to leave their mark or go, I'm going to shake things up when they didn't need to be shaken up.
Yeah.
If you want to do something new in comics, add a new character to it. Create a new wrinkle, build a relationship, and add that to the canon, as opposed to being like, well, what if Superman, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, you don't understand. It's like Zack Snyder didn't understand Superman, so it wasn't a good Superman story.
So, you know what was a really good way of doing kind of what you're, I think, hinting at? Because a great way to introduce new characters and slowly allow the audience to attach to a new character so that when the old character they love phases out, it's not pulling the rug out from under them and making, alienating your fan base. You know what show did a fantastic fucking job of doing that?
Listening.
Batman Beyond.
Yes, there's a good example where you had a progression
Yep,
and it built new
because
characters in and that sort of stuff.
they kept Kevin Conroy's Batman that had a massive fan base from Batman the Animated Series, and he was still Batman, just older, but they allowed you to then get Terry McGinnis and have the continuity, and they brought back some of the old Batman rogues, but the Joker versus new Batman was fantastic because the way Terry McGinnis takes on the Joker was so much different from how Bruce Wayne takes on the Joker. I'm like, holy shit, this is cool.
Yeah, yeah. You can have progression. You can have things added.
Yeah.
When they added Tim Drake as a new Robin, there we go. That's something new and different. Why? It's still Batman and Robin, but it's a different one. And what happened? Well, Jason Todd's gone until he wasn't, and Dick Grayson had actually aged out and become his own person. Like, you can do that. That's not, but nobody wants to do that. They want to change it. They want to change the character. They want to twist things. It's like, no, leave it alone. No
Just
one's
let
coming to
people
read
have full
your
character
change on
arcs.
the comic.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to come and read your change on the character because that's not the character they came to read.
And
They,
that's why I legit think that if they had to continue for the MCU, at least Endgame did give them the springboard they could work with, because giving the Falcon Captain America's shield
yeah,
by letting Captain America have the full plot arc to his happy ending,
yep.
but they brought Falcon in multiple movies prior and gave him enough room to become the heir to the
Which
shield.
is exactly the problem New Japan Pro Wrestling's having right now.
Yeah.
Their big names are hitting the end of their arcs. Tetsuya Naito is done. Hiroshi Tanahashi is retiring in January. Kazuchika Okada works in AEW now. They didn't have anybody built up. They have not gone and built anybody up to be the next big ace for them. And this is a problem.
Yep.
And it's the thing that wrestling builds need to be done as a comparison. They need to be done gradually. 2 weeks ago, AEW did Grand Slam Mexico. They did their weekly TV show from Arena Mexico. And one of the examples of the problem there was Atlantis and his son Atlantis Jr. came out. And the CMLL crowd hates Atlantis Jr. because they don't think he's earned it. There was backlash against Sheamus. Introspective, that was not the Undertaker's retirement match. They had backlash against Sheamus because Sheamus just came out of nowhere and won a top title. They had I'm trying to think of another, Batista had a pretty smooth ascension, which is why his worked. Sheamus eventually worked, but you have to have this smooth progression. And if you want an example that's happening right now, AEW is doing it with Kyle Fletcher. Kyle Fletcher showed up. He was buddies with Will Ospreay in the United Empire from New Japan, and he starts making his own path. And he's at this point where he's in this mid-card space as a, frankly, really good heel, and he's growing and developing. What did Swerve do? Took his time, grew and developed, and was willing to take losses, because in his own words, I don't care about winning or losing, because that if I'm out there and losing, I'm still getting TV time. I still have an opportunity to do something with it. And it's one of those, this at least, the nice thing about books and movies and stuff is you can have the whole thing self-contained, and like Lady Red said, you can have the end. You're going to have beginnings and ends for character. God, this is such a weird comparison. It just popped in my. Wrestling's a lot like the Wheel of Time. there are no beginnings or endings to the turning of the wheel, because the wheel turns, ages come and pass, but there it is a beginning, or it is an ending.
Yep.
Or to quote Terry
So
Pratchett, there's always something that came before.
yeah, so I'm a Wheel of Time. Like I started reading that in 1993. I rode that all the way. Like it is Wheel of Time and Dresden are my series, so I'm going to end up relating a lot of stuff to that.
Geth, that is an excellent thing to incorporate into a fantasy setting, because that's how the real world works when things are going well.
Hmm.
When things are well plotted out in the real world, you get the people who learn, and then they progress to becoming the people who do, and then as they start becoming advanced in the position of being the people that do, they then start becoming the people that teach, usually ideally by doing with somebody that is learning, so that somebody can learn the ropes. Because if you're not training your replacement, you're leaving a hole when you eventually inevitably leave. Like, everybody has an expiration date, and I it is in story writing, whether it be live action theater, wrestling being the subject we've been going, in comic books, in video games and their sequels, in any kind of story, in tabletop gaming. If
I have to
you
say,
if you don't,
if I may,
well, let me get the thought out, because otherwise
of
it's going to
course.
disappear.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh,
Go ahead.
sorry, man. Sorry.
No,
If
no,
you
no.
don't
Go ahead.
have, if you don't incorporate the introduction of the next generation, then once the end happens for the current generation, that's it. Game over. Show over. We're done. And it is hard to do the hard cut from one generation to the next without that intermediary buildup and have it be successful. It is very hard. BattleTech had the Dark Age, where they had to go back later and fill in the Jihad, because it was like, what the fuck, man? What the actual fuck? And it didn't go down all that well. On the flip side, one of the rare cases where a hard cut happened and it actually succeeded, Star Trek. Going from the original series to the next generation, there was a lot of pushback against the next generation. And like Hal said about comic books, it was because it was a completely new cast and people wanted to see their favorite characters come back, because that's what they were there for. So seeing it was a completely new cast, they're like, well, we're here for the chemistry of Kirk, Spock, Bones, Scotty, the whole gang. Now, granted, TNG then proceeded to take off and did really well. And I think they learned a little bit, because when Deep Space Nine came into play, they brought some characters over, O'Brien, Worf, to smooth out the transition to the
Well,
new cast.
Worf
Picard
came
makes
in
appearances.
season 3 or 4,
Yeah, fair enough, fair
but
I
enough.
have a
it was a
thought.
way to do that.
I have a thought to cap all of this off, but I want to let Lichter get in what he wanted to say
Yeah.
first.
I want to say that having the end part is, interestingly enough, one of the hardest thing to do in tabletop games. And
Yes.
but it is also one of the most satisfying, and one of the things that new GMs tend to be, at least the GMs from my generation that played AD&D and grew up thinking about campaigns that last 30 years. And it is interesting to see new games being developed, new tabletop RPGs that are being developed with the thought of the end. The game is not supposed to run forever. There's no infinite seasons. You play the character until it plays itself out.
So
It's
AD&D. Go on, sorry.
yeah,
Go on.
AD&D, the D&D 1.5 sort of.
Yeah.
So you had so designing a game which is essentially a framework for making collaborative stories. If you stop and think about it hard enough, um, it really gives you. There came a point in making these things where someone had the idea that let's put the end part as part of the game design instead of assuming that we're going for forever DLCs and further expansion packs. And now we have to play Immortals, and we need a system to how the fuck do we play Immortals? EDC, EDC. Yes, echo.
It's funny you mention that because in the original Gygaxian era of D&D, that was integral to the game. At least it was intended to be. Was once you got to a certain point, the characters would retire if they'd lived that long, because they now have their own land, their own fiefs that they're now looking after. They're building fortresses and strongholds and becoming the kings that hire new adventurers to go and do quests on their behalf because they've got their own place they're worried about. Retirement was kind of baked in. That, and also you didn't get that attached to your characters because dungeons were stupidly lethal, and have a backup. Have a backup for your backup.
I see, I understand, but and then again, you did have everything, and you wanted to play the uh, castle builder and play the diplomatic game, and the game usually did not have the scaffolding to let you play all of that, but the promise of you getting there and doing all of that was there. And this is why I'm saying that the game was not designed in it with an end goal. There wasn't the end part. While the entire culture around tabletop gaming has changed, and suddenly you have campaigns that are supposed to end at some point. You have characters. Even if you take a look at this, is me getting on my soapbox of proselytizing. But if you take a look at more modern versions of even Dungeons and Dragons, even if I'm not looking at all the incredible things that happened around it, you can start seeing games that have arcs that are not about a continual advancement of power. You have characters that essentially are there to resolve a specific conflict that you can probably resolve in the span of a book. It's no longer the entire Dresden series. It is the just one book. It's the warlock resolving issues with their benefactor daddy or whatever, or a paladin becoming oath broken, or just the entire play of Baldur's Gate 3, for
See,
instance.
see, I understand where you're going with, and when it comes to published modules, I agree with you. But the setting and the rules as portrayed really is geared towards continuous play without an end, because it supports, level 1 to we're now gods and we're doing cosmic level crap, and there's so much material that encourages never actually wrapping it up and saying the end,
But
which
that's
is
where the wonderful homebrew
bingo.
community of tabletop gaming, and it's really the heart of communal storytelling, is when you're doing communal storytelling. And TTRPGs are great because they give you a slew of different rules options for whatever it is that you might want to do to whatever level you want to do it. And Lictor is right, as the hobby has developed over the years, the tool sets that are now out there and the additions of things that you can play to allow your group that you're storytelling with to do the thing that they want specifically to do are now there. If you want to do Kingmaker and build a country, you can. If you want to do just individual Monster of the Week stories and maybe you never come back to these characters again, or maybe you do, you can do that. You have all of these options. But all of that grew out of the homebrew community, because
Yeah.
ultimately, and this is why I just wanted to talk about communal storytelling in general on my birthday, because it's the thing that I love, is Communal storytelling allows you to meet a group of like-minded people who have similar interests and explore the human condition through stories and characters and arcs and the things that you're interested in. And maybe you're a wrestling group and you enjoy the theatrics and physicality of it. Maybe you want to do full theatre. Maybe, you know, some of you are into interpretive dance for whatever reason. Or like for my group where I got started was I absolutely fell in love with the White Wolf setting and all the politique and intrigue, and that was where my communal storytelling started. And
That's where you met your husband.
yeah, it's still going with that group. There's still a concept of the story that we all started together that still hasn't hit its the end. Certain things have certainly ended and come and gone with it, but it's still there, and it's sort of that common thread that ties my intimate friendship group together. And what makes it so special compared to other storytelling is not just that, you know, you have a specific audience that you're tailoring to and delivering this experience to, but that you have this investment in the people that you're working with to honor the input that they have, and to celebrate what came before, what the other person put in. How do you take that and elevate it to the next level? And it becomes a positive feedback loop. And that's something that I think is really special in the world today, especially with how difficult life can be. Having this ability to tell stories, build things, respect the ideas other people feed in, and build up on it is a very affirming and human thing, I think. And that's why I wanted to witter about this today. And I'm glad so many people came along to do so.
Very good. I yes. I mean, it seems me and I didn't have the same idea of where to find excellent people to share their lives with.
I am, however, also noticing that it's already 1:30 where I am, which means it's 4:30 where the majority of our audience is, and we only have half an hour left, and we haven't even talked about Bubble 07 yet, and I think we need to.
Oh,
In which case, I will very.
No, 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 no,
I
no, no,
will.
no. Negative, Hals. All right, Hals.
I
I
don't
have a
have.
question for you.
All right.
Have you watched any James Bond movies?
Yeah.
What's your favorite one?
Oh, I have to have a favorite.
Well,
No?
if you don't have one that's your favorite, do you have a favorite Bond? Favorite actor?
So if I'm going to, it's going to be between two of them because I feel like that they kind of my two favorite. One's going to be the original, and it's Connery because it's Sean Connery. He set the standard for it. But if it's not going to be Connery, I'm probably going to say Pierce Brosnan
Okay.
because when you describe James Bond, what are the qualities? Competent, suave, smooth, and I feel like Connery and Brosnan were the two that embodied that the most. Like the idea is gritty Bond, I feel like misses the point of some of the.
You're being asked by ducks to say Sean Connery.
I did say Sean Connery. I already did. Um, you're being asked to buy into kind of this oddly fantastical world that's not how spy stuff works. So gritty Bond to me is missing the charm.
Okay.
So that's it. Connery and Brosnan to me are the ones that pull that off.
This is the thing I love about James Bond, and it's the same with Doctor Who as well, is that there's these different interpretations and different people like different things, which makes the concept appeal. There'll be time periods where you're like, oh yeah, I like these Doctor Who episodes, but I don't like this Doctor Who, so I'm not watching for a while, but then another one comes aboard and you're back in again. It's a broad spectrum of appeal across different ones, because I personally also like gritty Bond, but then I'm weird and there's not a single Bond that I don't like. So but it is always interesting hearing what it is people take away from the Bond setting for what they like. But just so you know, Howes, chat invented underwater James Bond.
I gathered that from the opener because it's.
So, since you have given a thought out, reasonable answer, you
Yeah.
have just now demonstrated your credentials to be part of the vote tallying process for Bubble oh 07.
You're also allowed to leave if you want to. That's fine too.
I look. I know you all have been working hard on Shoal,
We've
and
had a lot of fun.
but I have not been able to follow it, and therefore I would be operating from a deficit, and you'd spend more time explaining stuff to me than I would contributing.
Not even.
Well, what we're intending to do today is, over the last couple of weeks, chat has come up with a series of 007 movie titles. Because what we decided was, because we know we have psionics going on in setting, one of the things that has universally seemed to have occurred is certain memes seem to just exist across time and space, and for reasons nobody understands and is kind of scared to research into, for some reason 007 also exists on Shoal, just as 007, before humanity and the Shoalies ever met. So
It's just like everything evolves to crab eventually. Every civilization creates James Bond.
yes, so we have that going on, and this all started because people were telling puns, and I decided that we could indulge this one. So we have a series of 007 movie titles, some of which people have written synopses for, and what I wanted to do today was to go over the synopses we have, choose the 2 movies we like the most, and we're going to see if we can bully Lictor into making some posters for them, because Mo is going to make billboards for a BattleTech map.
I'm now. Have you established nation states on Shoal yet?
We've been working on that, and that's what we were supposed to be finishing up this week, except I've been really busy with Secret Project, and it's my birthday, and I didn't want to rush around trying to get that work finished to appropriate standard before today's show, so that'll be next week.
Because I was going to say some variation of From Russia with Blub sounds like a very
There's another
bubble
one.
lady.
Okay.
There we go. See, that's the
Thank you.
thing, Hals. All we're looking for, you don't have to know anything about Shoal. It's which James Bond pun sounds funniest and most entertaining. That's
Okay, hang on.
what this is all about.
I have
Well,
added that one in.
From the Salations with Blob. Yes, the Salations will definitely give you the blubber.
That's a good idea. From the Salations with Blub, our whale people. So we've had a whole series, and we have to choose which 2 we want to have made into posters to then appear
Man
on
with the
billboards.
coral gun. The spy who blubbed me.
Let me go through
that
what
sounds
we've got.
naughty.
Let me go through what we've
Well,
got. And then we'll go from there. So some of these have synopses, some of these don't. But I'm going to go down the list. We have 007, Moon Sailor. 007, Golden Pike. 007, Secret Agent Squid. 007, Shoal Fool. 007, Dare Thee to Pop. 007, Fry Another Day. 007, License to Krill. 007, You Only Dive Twice. 007, Coral is Forever. 007, Terrors from the Reef. 007 Thunder Squall, which has a write-up. We've decided it will be about a demented whale, a Selashian, who has invented a device to control the weather. 007 has to infiltrate his compound hidden in a landlocked underground lake. We then have 007, The Sea Is Not Enough, / The Whirl Is Not Enough, different titles for regional purposes. We have 007 Octopussy, where it was decided that the plot for Octopussy will be the exact same on Shoal as on Earth. Nothing is different, no explanation given.
Yeah, I mean, how can you not? that one's a gimme.
We then have 007 Trench Raker / Mern Raker, which Lictor did the write-up for and is new this week. When a top-secret coral titan vanishes during a routine spatial translocation drop, AID sends its slickest agent, 007, Latical, Noir, and notoriously non-buoyant, into the deep end. His mission? Trail the slippery human arch-billionaire Dr. Lysander Drench, a hydrodynamics tycoon with delusions of godhood and a suspiciously dry laugh. From the kelp-draped casinos at furthest reach to reef-ringed space elevators on highest perch, Bubbles swims through the psychic coral espionage, crab-foo assassins, and one very awkward biosuit malfunction, all to uncover Drench's fantastical plan, translocating Shoal itself to replace Earth's arid moon, turning the entire satellite into a luxury water park for the ultra-rich and ultra-thirsty. With only a flirtatious Salashian singer agent, or haunted titan called Cephalus, played by Benny, and his own sense of dramatic timing, 007 must slither into politics, dive beyond the deep, and catch the tide onto one final ink-splattered jewel. Will he rise to the surface or get reeled in for good? One thing's for sure, the name's Bubble, and this time he's shaken, stirred, and submerged.
I had a thought in the middle of that,
What was that?
but I wrote it in chat because I'm not sure that I could phonetically say it enough to gold finner.
Okay, other movies we have. From Shoal with Love, Swim and Let Fry, The Crab Who Loved Me, For Your Gills Only, View to a Krill, where Christopher Walleye and Moray Day seek to destroy all the plankton in Shoalicon Valley, The Fish with the Golden Gill / Gold Flipper, Quantum of Shoalis, The Sound of Silence, using psionics. Years of research have led the mad Professor Polypondry to the torpid tides, the dead zone of the quiet's first bloom, and now this old terror moves once again. But now it swims on shoaly fins as an army of silence swims upon the tide. It's up to 007 to assemble a crack team to get to the heart of the bloom and put a stop to Professor Polypondry and his madness. Join 007 in The Sound of Silence.
Hello, Ducky Lad. Welcome back.
On your list here, I believe straight up the best one, because it carries on kind of the spirit of it, but it's also its own thing, is 007 Shell Game. Like, that's perfect.
Shell Game is about a hermit crab selling state secrets and disguise himself by stealing shells. He's gotten a hold of some truly juicy intel, and 007 has to stop him before he sells it at the largest black market auction in the Northern Seas. It is very 007.
I like that one. That one's very on brand.
I also really like A Time for Crab. Go on.
On Her Majesty's Secret, spelled properly, surf. Yes.
I mean, on screen right now is On Her Majesty's Secret Serpents, which that sounds naughty, admittedly, but you know.
Well, I put it in the On Her Majesty's Secret Surface, because I mean either one of those.
Oh my god.
Last week, one of the ones I really liked was A Time for Crab. It's one of the movies where 007 is a crab, and it's just the movie Crank, except 007 spends the entire movie on drift, which was a drug chat came up with for our setting. We have Dr. Bloom. A mad scientist creates a replicating phosphate solution that, when dumped into an area, causes an algal bloom. The bloom results in a bloom of creatures that eat the algae and consume oxygen in the water in the process, and thus you end up with a dead zone. We have Dial M for Mernda, Mern being the star, on Her Majesty's Secret Serpents, from the Salashians with Blub, and we have A Time to Krill. Dr. Blub has developed a device that can control krill, threatening Salashians everywhere with the implied threat. Paralysed to act directly, the nations of the sea must turn to a new and unproven Salashian 007. He must go undercover and track down the mad doctor and his device before panic sets in, or the doctor starves everyone. 007 in A Time to Krill. So that is our full list of movies. I think I'm just going to put up the ones that we have a little synopsis for to be voted on, and whichever two have the top numbers are what we'll see about getting done.
If you want dirty, it's 007 Blowhole.
That's the porn knockoff, yes.
Yeah.
Yep. I mean, either that or Blowhole is the Blofeld knockoff.
Yeah, that.
I think that may have been mentioned at some point. Hang on, let me scroll
Ernst
up.
Crabrow Blowhole. Oh my god.
Ducks, what were you going to say?
Interrupting Duck here.
Whack.
Red, does 007 work for MI Fish?
Probably. We do have recurring villain Blowhole, a whale that idly strokes an albino ferrofuzz as he plots world domination. So what did you say the full name should be?
Oh, god damn it.
It was Ernst something.
Ernst Crabrow Blowhole.
There you go.
You're ashamed of that. I can hear it in your own voice.
Low.
All right, let me get these. You guys entertain chat while I get a poll set up.
I am tickling Anka's little toe beans while she's asleep, and it's making them twitch.
Aiden, as far as saying something and then it being written down or people latching onto it and then you immediately regretting what you've said, I know how you feel.
Yeah, I mean, so do I. Nun milk became a thing, and it's by this point I have to just embrace it.
Well, you see,
Now,
I have to ask, is it NONE milk or NUN milk?
NUN, November Uniform November.
That is significantly different than the other. Yes.
confused lichter noises.
It was
Just think
playing
holy
in-
creamer.
You know what? On that note, I will catch y'all later.
Bye,
Listen to Holy
Hals.
Diver then.
Thank you for
Bye
joining
now.
us.
Paired Hals. You can make it 10 more minutes, Hals. We're almost out.
We could, yes.
Howard.
Night Owl says, Aiden, you still don't have the quote problem Dux has. It's only bad when people listen to
granted,
what I say, which nobody should do. I don't.
you
that
and
is
Quick just have the ability to open mouth, and then a stream of weird comes out that is incredibly potent as mimetic hazards go.
I can explain to you how that works, but this is not the time. Now, in order to explain it, though, I will need a noun, which is typically a person, place, or thing. Now, we could pick that one that are people, but then, we got to single out people like Bubble07. So you got to go, is this fictitious? Is this factual? Does this person exist? Does this person owe me money? Which might. Then you got to have a place. Where does this person owe me money at? Then you're going to ramble about that. In this case, a space station orbiting MERN. We'll call it Space Station, I don't know, 1 through 12 blew up. So we'll say it's Space Station 13. And then you got to have a thing. In this case, money. So we have a person that owes me money on Space Station 13 orbiting the sun of MERN, and they owe me a lot of money because I stole them a lot of plasma. And then you just got to ramble and ramble and ramble. It's ad-libbing. It's creating a story as you go.
So, fun fact, Twitch wouldn't let me put enough options on it, so I'm still creating a poll. Continue entertaining chat by all means.
There is no way that what I was just doing is entertaining at all because it's like rambling.
that is such a blatant lie. And
I haven't had coffee today. My one brain cell is not in drive.
That is fine. I had enough coffee for you and me at the same time.
You are
You
going
have
to piss like a racehorse later.
You have shown me
Me-
the coffee that you drink, and I still want to try some sometime.
I so swear, I will cross the pond and I will make you that coffee.
No balls.
That's a heck of a.
I so
I'm gonna need a
swear
rowboat
this
and a lot of time.
in front of Chet and God. I don't care. You choose which God. I have been ordained to at least 7 different religions. Pick one. I'll find a way to make it stick.
Oh my god. Geez, does that mean you're Benny from The Mummy? The Mummy shows up, you just pull out the full, fistful of different holy symbols.
Yeah, trying different symbols. Like, does this one work? No, throw it away. Does this one work? No, throw it away. Does this one work? No, throw it away.
Yes. You should see my religious pick me up shelf where I have Ganesh, 3 different depictions of Odin, the elephant headed god.
Isn't that where Ganesh? That's the stuff that you put in the cupcakes, right, love?
That's Ganache.
Yes, that
That's
too.
something else. Poll's up,
That's
by
something
the
else.
way. Poll is up. You can choose 2.
Excellent, because we are at our last 10 minutes.
I start my day with 3 capsules of Nespresso and I end my day at around 10 or 12. You do not get to the levels of coffee that a reserve service in the IDF get to.
Oddly related to writing, and I hate to actually be on topic because it is absolutely not in character for me as a person or character, whatever. I hate some tropes. This is Red Writing Rants. I'm gonna like make a mad writing rant briefly, if that's allowed.
You absolutely can, but if you'd like to at some point, if you get a week where you're free and you want to come and do a stream where we just talk about tropes, I've ranted on the topic before, and it's something I'm always happy to rant about because tropes are super interesting.
if I can get a Friday, you are on a time slot where I'm usually like
I know, I'm in
out
a
in the
really
field in a
inconvenient time
lift.
slot. Maybe we'll do it
Well,
some
no.
week when something needs covering.
Well, I'm a contractor, and so my schedule, my calendar is really just a bunch of expletives and screaming, which is funny because I don't swear. No, I swore. No, I said a swear word last week.
My
Well,
God.
anyway, so look, tropes, sci-fi tropes specifically. There are a few of them that just make me bonkers, which says a lot, given where my starting point is. But never mind that. The magical space translator. I hate it. I understand it as a time-saving device. I understand it sort of as a storytelling bridge. However, there is absolutely no way that the magical space translator can go, oh well, these are humans and they're meeting this species for the first time, so obviously this magical space translator, they can understand each other as though they're being spoken to in their own language, because
You need
tone,
to feed
inflection,
it a Rosetta
contractions, and all
Stone
that.
first. You can't just do it on
Right.
first contact.
Right. So, in the story that I wrote, and I'm trying to get back into writing, life got a little sidetracked. It got a little hard to see for a while. Um, Ducks say more effing swear words. No, they come on their own, or they don't at all. They come in spurts, like all of life's best things. Um, I'm sorry, that was dirty. No, like I started writing a story called First Encounters of the Spacey Kind, where I decided I was going to plug tropes and have fun with it, make a little sci-fi comedy. And they have a oh wait, Verith Ragna says pause.
So I'm going to make the observation, Ducks, that you have just described a thing that I have dabbled in multiple times. Play-by-post RPGs is something that I periodically will attempt to fit myself into. And one of the fun things is translocating my namesake character into a setting and make the play it up in the isekai way, except I ain't from around these parts. So now one of the fun and important things that needs to happen is language barriers need to be overcome. And it's fun.
Yeah.
It's fun
Well,
to do.
well, okay. So, like, I'll send you a link later if you want to read it. It's not very long. It's only a handful of chapters so far. But like when they get him to put on the translator, the aliens, it goes on his ear, and like as he uses words, it picks up on his use of words, adds it to a language matrices, and he starts to be able to understand more and more of the words that the aliens are saying to him, and it picks up, and it increases, as it learns like syntax and such.
Yeah.
I think you'll really like what we did with Shoal, with First Contact having happened. In the initial days, the Shoaly and humans trying to communicate with each other has an extra layer of difficulty, because not only do they not speak each other's language, the Shoaly are designed to communicate underwater, so a lot of their language is clicks and, deep sounds, and of course, psionic, because they have psionics on Shoal and humanity doesn't. So even when they were going through the initial stages of trying to figure out a basic lexicon of pointing and like words for here and there and me and you, humanity was getting the worst headaches possible, because the Shoaly are trying to psionically communicate with them and it doesn't work. So
As a
everyone
contractor,
just had a headache.
As a contractor, the only correct solution to that problem is Goody's powder. It's like BC powder, but better.
So yeah, we went
But
through a whole thing about the language barrier.
yeah, no, and I appreciate that. Like while writing a sci-fi comedy, I believe that there should be the sci and the sci-fi as much as humanly possible, with, of course, a little bit of suspension of disbelief, which is sort of required for any movie or story at all. But like I wound up studying like what we know, and like reading articles about what we know about different nebula, etc., and composite. I even had to read up on how stars work, so that I could write a chapter, like a little blurb in a chapter, in a way that I felt was pinprick resistant.
Yep, that's fair.
Also, I'm nuts, so
Well, I
You are.
was awful. I just threw the concept that we all came up with together for how the Sholey solar system worked, because that's where we started. We started with, okay, how many planets do we have? Where is our system? We literally started from bare bones with this, and then I threw all of that information at Ninja Turtle and said, "Can you make a working model of this?" And he did. So I just
All
made
right,
somebody
so
else do it. Right,
brief interruption.
get your last votes in on the poll, chat, because we're going to make a decision in a minute. Okay, go ahead, Iden.
Yeah, that was my brief interruption. Was we've got 2 currently tied for the lead, and another that is 1 vote behind, and we're running low on time. We've had 10 participants so far. I see 48 people in Twitch chat, so
If you'd like to vote and
Everybody
choose
get
which
there.
movies become posters, now is the time. Now is the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, to get out your blue tickets, click the straw poll link and vote now. If you wouldn't mind, please participate, because the more you participate, the more of you that have participated. Therefore, more of you will be able to participate. This
yes.
announcement has been brought to you by a very legible person with a mind not at all powered by, well, caffeine.
I have just
Please go
received a
vote.
kiss on the nose from the puppy.
Oh, is she woken up?
I
Edge
of
out.
course, do not have anything to do with the amount of coffee inside of Dux's brain and blood.
Indeed.
We are not quantumly entangled by caffeine.
I'm going to
That
bring
would be
back up the
fascinating.
Moonraker poster that the AI made, because it's hilarious. There you go. For anybody who wasn't here at the start of stream, Lictor did put some Moonraker ideas into AI to see what it would shove out, and I just love the fact that it tried to make a sexy laticle. It's hilarious.
Yes, it literally asked me if I wanted a more suggestive radical. If I wanted more innuendo.
That tells us who the predominant demographic using AI is right now, I think.
This
We now
is
have a 3-way tie.
Ladies and
Well,
gentlemen, it's gotten more
so-
complicated. We need even more votes. Even more.
We
Ladies
do.
and
even
gentlemen.
more. Yes, we need more.
Ladies and
We need
gentlemen,
more
please.
because if I need to make 3 of these,
I'm not gonna.
but by the way, if there's a 3-way and the Latical is in the business. Wait, no, it's not. The Laticals are not squid people. The Laticals are the Naga.
Hey, Red, a thought has occurred to me.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
that's dangerous. Keep it
No,
bottled.
no, Lictor, I understand that occasionally I say, oh, I had a thought or I had an idea, and I say something weird. I understand. I have a reputation for doing that, and that's fair. But in this case, I had a very normal thought, and I think you'll agree with me, because I just realized on that planet, cutting
Yes.
open a lemon and trying to squeeze it into your tea would be a very dangerous and painful ordeal for everyone around.
We do
No.
have some land masses where normal things can happen, but one of the really cool things we came up with, not last week, I think it was the week before, we were talking about candy and drugs and inventing candies and drugs. And one of the things that we have for underwater fun
Because
is,
we needed something to do aside from war crimes.
yes, we couldn't just do war crimes all the time. We basically came up with underwater Capri Suns, where things are put into barnacles, sealed barnacles, and then you just stick a straw through the side. So I imagine you'd have to do like lemon juice that way somehow, and just you shake it and maybe 2 pouches inside the barnacle then mix together.
Well, you don't need to pepper spray people. You just need to like cut a lemon up and squeeze it and then swim away.
We do have some war crimes that are based around those kind of ideas, yes.
Yeah, now,
Chat was
I'm not saying.
disturbingly good at war crimes. Yeah, I see you, Zork. I'm talking about you.
God,
Yeah,
Zork, you're a
I should not be
monster.
allowed near the discussions of the mechanics of these sorts of things, because it's me and I will do things the wrong way and somehow it works, and I can't explain it either.
Okay, I think I'm going to call the poll here because it is now end of stream o'clock. We do have a little bit of wiggle time because Tex and Depp aren't due on until past. But our top 2 are Octopussy and Moonraker. So there is your challenge, Lictor. Could you do us some posters for Octopussy and Moonraker for
The
007?
last vote literally dropped after you said polls closed. and it was still a three-way tie until that moment.
It was 8 for Octopussy, and then 7 for Mernraker, A Time for Crab, and Shell Game.
Wow.
No,
No,
Time for
that's
Crab,
that's
Time for Crab was
that's
a 6. It was 8,
that's the
7,
one.
7.
Yes, Murdraker.
Yeah,
That really came out cute.
it's going to be Octopussy and Mernraker if you're willing to do that, Lictor. We would be
Yes,
very pleased. There's
I
no
just
time
need
limit. No time
I just
limit.
need some reference of what in the bloody blazes am I doing, because I don't know what you just said.
I can do that. I will send you a brief. I can do that.
Yeah, that would be amazing.
Well, we didn't get to the other thing I wanted to talk about on today's stream, but hopefully we can do that next week. I wanted to talk about, because it's my birthday, what do birthdays look like on Shoal? You know, because they've got the close years and the grand year, and how does that get celebrated, and other sort of things that would be universal concepts that might be celebrated. But we'll look at all of that next time, and that gives us something to look forward to. So if you want some homework for this week, chat, have a think about festivals and celebrations that the Shoalies might enjoy, because that will be our topic next week.
Hatch days.
Yeah, Hatch Days.
Spawniversary.
Yeah, today's been really nice. This has been a very nice way to spend part of my birthday, and I appreciate all of you being here with us, chat, and starting your weekend with me. I hope you all have a great one and be wonderful to each other, and we'll probably see as many of you as possible here on Sunday for WBPLW. I will be in the admin booth as usual, and yeah, we will close out the weekend all together as well. So thank you for being here. Any final words from my wonderful co-hosts?
I'm trying
Wonderful.
to process the thing that I just saw on the internet, so my brain is just shut down for a moment.
Okay.
Pass.
You do that then. Yes, Ducks.
Happy birthday.
Happy Hatching Day. Ladies and gentlemen of the audience, thank you for joining us. You have a choice of what you do with your time, and you chose to spend it here with us. And while that may not have been good for your sanity, we definitely appreciate it, because this is our community. You are our community. You are our internet neighbors and fellow weirdos. And honestly, it's pretty cool that we're all here together being weirdos. You know what I mean? So thank you.
Yes, agreed.
Thank you for being here. And hopefully we will get to see big project, secret project soon. I'm very excited for you guys to see what I've been doing.
And remember, shaken, stood, submerged.
Yes. And with that, 007 team, out!